Now available on Tata Sky channel number 526.
Getting a good deal on your home loan is very, very important. After all, you have to live and pay that EMI off for the next 20 years or so. Hello and welcome. You're watching Property Hotline with me, Kavita Krishnan. Today we are answering queries on financing the dream home. We have a very special guest in the studio tonight. Harshil Mehta, CEO of DHFL, will answer all your questions related to home finance. So keep them coming in. Welcome to the show, Harshil. We have Ram Malkani's question. Let's start with that. Now, Ram has written in through email and he says that when he takes a home loan from a bank and if the interest rates reduce, the banks take 2 to 3 months to pass on the benefits to the customers, and not just 2 to 3 months. Most banks have not passed on the whole quantum yet. So now what Ram says is that during these 2 to 3 months, other banks do come out with lower interest rates, zero processing fees. He wants to know if he should transfer the loan immediately or whether he should wait. What would you suggest?
Ram, as far as the interest rates are concerned, yes, it typically takes a few weeks to a month or so before you see the new revised pricing on the interest rates, and in those scenario, it is recommended that you kind of take a wait and watch approach rather than immediately taking a decision, because you need to see that how your existing rates are going to change and what do you see in the marketplace. At the same time, you also need to look from the exit options in scenario, because there are also sometimes, if you prepay in a shorter period of time, there could be some levy. Overall, there is no levy on that. And also at the same time, you need to look whether you are in the early parts of your loan or in the later parts of the loan. Because in the earlier part of your loans, tenure, you are paying a lot of EMI towards the interest. And if you move at that point of time, yes, then you see more benefit coming in, because you are paying a lot of EMI towards your interest. So
Harshil, you said that in the initial period of your loan, if you prepay, there might be some charges. Now we know that RBI is very clear that there should not be any prepayment charges on the home loan, especially if the customer wants to switch. Now what is this initial period speaking of? How long is it?
No, see this again, Kavita, it depends from a bank to bank or HFC to HFC. Many of them, for the first few months, keep a fee to say, because there are issues with respect to part prepayments.
Okay.
So that's about it. But otherwise, as far as the foreclosing of the loan completely is concerned,
how long is this time?
It depends from an organization to organization, and many of them do not have anything. Okay. So virtually, I would say there are no exit barriers. But one has to read that fine print to that extent.
Now, I also recall you saying that you should look at the interest rate differential to make sense of whether it makes sense, whether it is prudent to actually shift that loan. What is a decent interest rate differential if you want to shift a loan?
Yeah, that's a good question, Kavita, because, normally we always tend to get attracted by the fact that, this is being offered to me at a lower rate, which could be 25 basis points or something. But you really need to see from the difference in either in the EMI or a very tangible difference in your tenure. You may have the same EMI, but if the tenure comes down.
So give us a benchmark. What is a good difference?
A really good difference would be if the difference is anything more than 50, 75 basis points. Okay. Because then it will make a meaningful impact on your EMIs or on your tenures.
Okay. And very quickly, if you can tell us, what is your outlook on interest rates, considering that the finance minister has been very prudent in his budget? Do you see the Reserve Bank actually going ahead and reducing repo rate?
One is always very optimistic about all those things, and the hopes are always there that the interest rates will go down. Because,
how much?
Well, 50 basis points.
50 basis points?
There is a room.
I'm
saying, Kavita, there is a room for 50 basis points. It's a question of how much you see coming.
Okay, so bankers are expecting another 50 basis point rate cut. Meanwhile, if you want to shift your home loan, ensure that you're at least getting a 0.5 to 0.75% differential between the interest rate that you're paying your home loan at right now and the interest rate that is being offered to you. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to move that home loan. We have Venugopal who's called in. Venugopal, go on. Tell us what's your question.
Kavita, the question is that I have a flat in New Gurgaon in the DLF.
Okay.
It is in Sector 91. And you see, I have paid or I have no loan on this or nothing is there. I want to take a loan on this for doing about 3 to 3.5 for doing the internal work, you know. Electricals I have done, only the woodwork and plus whatever it is to be done, AC, CJB. That is the point. So I'm just wondering where I should look for a loan, whether it is, now you have got somebody with the DHF, what is it?
DHFL.
Finance Corporation or some other people. I mean, what is the advantage of having, and it is on my wife's name, huh? Both of us are retired people.
Okay.
That is the thing.
Okay. So Venugopal wants to know if he can take essentially what is a home improvement loan. They are both retired. And where do they go to get a good home improvement loan?
Mr. Venugopalan, there are two ways you can look at taking the loan. One is, yes, you can go and take a home improvement loan, and you know, if you are the owner or if your spouse is the owner, they can come in as a co-applicant to the loan. But you need to remember one thing, that in case the property is in the name of your spouse, then the maximum tenure would be up to the age of 70 when she reaches. Alternatively, if the amount involved is, you know, a less amount, then of course there are other alternatives which can be just a plain vanilla personal loan, which is also available in the market.
But also, Harshil, tell us this, a home improvement loan. Now, if I take a home improvement loan along with my home loan, which is essentially a top-up loan, I get it at the same interest rate that I'm paying for the home loan. If you were to, like in the case of Venugopal, he wants to take a pure home improvement loan. What are the interest rates that we're talking about? See,
if he takes a pure home improvement loan, it would be pretty much slightly more than the home loan, okay? But it will definitely be much lesser than what you would normally pay in a personal loan, because it's an unsecured loan.
Okay, so you're saying it would be between 10 to 14%?
Less than that.
Less than that.
Yeah,
less than that as well.
Yeah.
And which are the banks or HFCs that give these kind of loans?
I would say most of the banks or HFCs would give, because they have products which is called as home improvement loan or home extension loan.
And no issues with lending to retired people?
No, as long as you have a steady income coming in. But then on that aspect, you also look at the maximum age, you know, for that, you know, and that's what I said about 70 years, you know, so that's what comes into picture.
Okay, so age is a factor that you need to consider, Venugopal. Otherwise, you can take a home improvement loan, shop around. Practically, most banks and HFCs will give you that home improvement loan, and that is in fact a better deal than going for a personal loan, because a personal loan will work out much more expensive for you. We have Rajkumar Jain now who's called in. Go on, Rajkumar, tell us what's your question.
जी सर, मैडम साहब ये है कि ये कितने साल तक का लोन मिल सकता है एक पर्सन को, उसकी कितनी उम्र होनी चाहिए?
होम लोन लेने के लिए क्या उम्र होनी चाहिए, यही सवाल है आपका?
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि उसकी लास्ट उम्र कितनी चाहिए, 60, 40, 70, कितने उम्र तक के?
अच्छा, मैक्सिमम एज क्या होना चाहिए अगर कोई होम लोन लेना चाहता है तो?
राजकुमार जी, देखिए ऐसा है कि मिनिमम एज जो है लोन लेने के लिए वो 18 साल है, और मैक्सिमम उम्र जो लोन के लिए होती है वो सैलरीड में रिटायरमेंट तक की होती है, और जो सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड होते हैं जिनका खुद का धंधा या व्यापार होता है, उनकी 70 साल 70 इयर्स तक की एज होनी चाहिए।
तो 65 या तो 70 साल मैक्सिमम एज यही होता है। एसेंशियली राजकुमार जी, आपको ये याद रखना होगा कि अगर आप ज़्यादा उम्र में लोन लेते हैं तो उसे रीपे करने का जो कैपेसिटी है वो बैंक देखता है। लोन देते वक्त बैंक वही उसी को नज़र में लेता है और उसके बेसिस पर जो है वो आपको लोन देता है। बिफोर वी मूव ऑन फ्रॉम दिस क्वेश्चन Harshil, if say I am 50 and we are in a society where people are working even in their 70s, well into their 70s. So our banks, our HFC is still very particular about that 65 years age limit or the 70-year age limit because, you know, we are seeing longer working lives right now. So if I'm 50, can I take a home loan that goes into say 15 years?
Kavita, that's a very valid question. What I've said is what normally you are going to see. Okay. Then it also depends on the type of profession and on the type of the loan requirement and what kind of income is there. You know, because there are certain jobs which are you know, prone to certain occupational hazards. You know, there are certain jobs which are you know, leading to certain health related stuff. So then those becomes how you deal with those individual cases. You know, this is by and large what you would normally expect from the industry or from any of the players. But then of course there are certain flexibilities. Like at DHFL we are pretty flexible on certain type of jobs or, you know, certain type of business which they are into, you know, and you take those calls and decisions depending upon that.
So self-employed professionals who want to take a home loan at a later age might just get a better chance of getting that home loan, say like a doctor or a lawyer, someone who has a longer working life, for instance.
Absolutely.
So it's essentially how much income you can bring to the table.
Exactly, and how it shapes up over the period of time, you know. So all those things considering, then you would definitely look into those situations on a case-to-case basis as acceptable.
So there is a maximum age limit that banks and HFCs typically work with, which is 65 years of age for salaried professionals and 70 years of age if you're a self-employed or a business person. However, if you demonstrate the capacity to repay the loan and you have a substantial income that you can get to the table, then the bank or the HFC might just, you know, bypass that rule and give you a home loan that could last for around 15 to 20 years, even if you approach them at a later age, say at 50 years of age. Moving on, we have Raghavendra, who's written in through email. He says that he has a property of about 27 lakh rupees and it is under the municipal, that is within the municipal corporation limits. He plans to take a loan on this property. The property now is on his father's name, Harshil, who has retired. He wants to know how can he take this loan.
Raghavendra, what you are essentially saying is you are looking at a loan against property, and yes, if you want to apply for that loan, you can definitely apply for a loan on the basis of your income and on the basis of the property which is in your father's name, where he can come in as a co-applicant to the loan. But you need to remember again one thing, that again since the property is owned by your father and there is an age factor which comes into the play, which again is restricted to 70 years in that scenario. So you have to look from that perspective. But yes, to answer your question, can you get a loan? Yes, you can get a loan against property.
Okay, Harshil, because since we just discussed how, you know, late into your life you can actually get a home loan, is it possible in this case that Raghavendra's father takes a home loan and Raghavendra signs on as co-applicant instead of the other way around, where he has to take a loan against property because the property is not in his name?
It can happen the other way around as well, that Mr. Raghavendra's father can become the main applicant and his son becomes the co-applicant. The key thing again here is then in the case of main applicant, you also will have to look at his income papers. You know, so if he's a retired person, there is a possibility that he must be getting certain kind of annuity. So what you do in that scenario is combine both the incomes together.
But in this case, Raghavendra won't get the tax deduction on the home loan. It will go to his father.
Now, if the EMI, suppose they pay the EMI, but again, this is a loan against property. But supposedly,
Like
if it were a home loan.
If he takes it the other way around, his father takes a home loan and Raghavendra is a co-applicant, then can Raghavendra claim tax deduction?
No, because he also needs to have a property in his name. So, you know, you need to also have a property.
That's probably why he's asking us this question.
Yes.
But also tell us this, home loan versus loan against property. What are the interest rates that are charged on loan against property?
See, home loan and loan against property, while the common denominator is the real estate, but the end use is completely different, because in a home loan you are taking a loan to buy a home. As against a loan against properties, you are holding on to your own property which is still not mortgaged, and you are using the money against as a loan by mortgaging the property.
So your property is a security or the
property
collateral.
is a security, and so the end use is different. In the former, in the home loan, the end use is largely for moving in with the family, and in a loan against property, the end use is largely for business purposes. So that's the distinction between the...
But it doesn't matter if I take a loan against property and build a house on that land.
That means essentially there is another property which you have, against which you have taken a loan, you use that money, you have some other land on which you do construction.
Okay, not on the same land.
No, then okay, you can do that also, which is called as a loan against plot. Yeah, you can take a loan against the plot and do a construction, which essentially instead of that, one would prefer to do a construction loan, because construction loan then again becomes qualified as a housing loan.
And okay, and that is cheaper.
Yes,
So
and you get tax benefits.
Right. So Raghavendra, if you are planning to take this loan to construct on that plot, opt for construction finance vis-a-vis a loan against property. That will work out much cheaper for you, and that will also be considered as a home loan. We'll take Kumar's query next, Harshil. Kumar has written in through email. He says that he's based in Bangalore. He has a plot in his mother's name and now wants to take a loan to construct a house over here. Does he need an NOC from the civic authority for availing a loan? Does he need an NOC?
Kumar, I don't know whether the plot which you are mentioning, is it a leasehold or it's a freehold? See, if the plot is leasehold, then chances are you may need an NOC from them for availing a loan, because you are then going to mortgage the plot. But let's say if it is a freehold, then you don't need an NOC because you own that plot. But what you may need is, you may need still, your plans to get approved by the municipal authorities. So you need to be clear on that, whether it's a leasehold property or a plot or a freehold plot.
Harshil, it's interesting that you bring up leasehold and freehold. Now, leasehold, obviously, for the benefit of all our viewers who have tuned in, leasehold is property that you get on lease from the development authority or from the government. And freehold, of course, is property that you buy, that you own. So you own the land and you own the house. In leasehold, you don't own the land, you just own the house, right?
Yes.
And what I have read and I have been told is that bankers are generally wary of giving loans to leasehold property, for building on leasehold property. Is that true?
Kavita, I would say it's partially true and partially, it's because you have many properties which are leasehold, but these are perpetual leases, and there is a set process through which you get the NOCs from the authorities.
So when you say perpetual lease, this is the 99-year lease.
Exactly, and then it just keeps on renewal, and the renewal clause are also very, very, minimal amounts. And there is a set process where the authorities give you NOC, and in the agreements, also in the lease agreements, it talks about that you can mortgage this property and so on and so forth. There are certain leasehold type of properties which are restrictive in nature, and that's where the lending institutions become cautious. So
when you say restrictive, this is the leases for a shorter period of time? This
could be with respect to that this cannot be mortgaged for properties, or it needs a prior approval before you go and apply and things like that. So that's where you want to be doubly sure.
So this is your collector land, etc.
Something like that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So essentially you need to read that fine print before you actually go and buy leasehold property in the first place, because that it determines, the conditions that are imposed on the leasehold property will determine whether or not you'll get a loan if ever you choose to mortgage that property. We have Mr. Shukla, who's written in through email. He says that his salary is 1.5 lakh rupees per month. He's partially repaying a loan with an EMI of 30,000 rupees. Now this EMI, he says, will reduce eventually. He doesn't say in how long, how much time. And his PF contribution is 50,000 rupees. His take-home salary is less, but he plans to go for another home loan. What should he do to avail maximum home loan? He's telling I can reduce my PF contribution if required. Harshil, would you really advise that? And also taking on another loan when he's already paying off one loan?
Again, there are two things here. Shuklaji, you mentioned PF contribution of 50,000 rupees. So I'm assuming that's the annual contribution of 50,000 rupees. 1.5 lakh per month. Again, I'm assuming that it's a gross income. You already are running one home loan. There is a PF contribution, and if it is a gross amount, then obviously there would be certain amount of deductions, statutory deductions, and so forth, which must be happening. Now, if we consider all those things, and you are still wanting to go for a loan, on a ballpark range, we can say that you still will be eligible for a loan of anywhere in the range of 60-65 lakh rupees. But you really may want to consider that, because what you are essentially doing is you already have one long-term commitment in the form of EMI for a housing loan, and now you are talking about getting into a second long-term commitment in terms of EMI. So you need to again, relook from your complete financial perspective and see where it fits in.
So Mr. Shukla, 60 to 65 lakh rupees is what you're eligible for if you do choose to take that loan. But like Harshil said, it might not be the best thing that you should be doing. Harshil, ideally, how much of your income should go into repaying a loan?
See, normally the way you look at it is you actually look at the net income, because ultimately it's the take home which comes. Basis that you would try to cap it at 50% of that as an EMI. So when you do the multiples, it is about 50 times the multiple of that disposable income after 50% going away.
So 50 times of 50% of your income is what is an ideal home loan that you should be taking, or an ideal loan that you should be taking. You should not be paying loans that are higher than that. Also, should you be taking multiple loans? Is it advisable? I know most people today have a home loan and a car loan, but a car loan typically is a 5 or 7 year loan. Right. 2 home loans, both of 20 years in tenure. Is it advisable?
See, because firstly you have to ask, why do you need 2 home loans? Because that clearly means that the other loan, there is a very high probability that you are then looking that from an investment perspective. And when you look from an investment perspective, your angle completely changes, because then you start looking at the returns. Now, if you don't see the returns, then you are essentially paying away your EMIs with interest into something which is not going to generate.
So look at the cost-benefit trade-off very quickly as a banker. Are you open to giving 2 home loans, a second home loan to a person who already has a home loan?
You do not definitely view it very positively.
You don't know. So bankers also don't like lending to people who already hold one home loan. We have Dharmen Sangvi who's called in. Dharmen, go on, tell us your question.
Madam, we are planning to take a home loan in the name of myself and my father. Okay. Now, can we both get the benefit of tax exemption of 2 lakh rupees each, madam? Number 1. Okay. Number 2, madam, probably the property that we have finalized. Okay. The society has invited, proposal for reconstruction. That is, they have floated a redevelopment in the newspapers for reconstruction, madam. So, is it a negative point for obtaining me for the home loan?
Dharmen, first tell me this, are both you and your father, are both of you all owners of this property?
Yeah, both are borrowers as well as the owners of the property.
Okay. In that case, I guess both of them can claim tax exemptions, right?
Yes, because as long as they both, Dharmen bhai, as long as both of you pay the EMIs together from the bank account, and you both are the owners of the property, yes, you can get accordingly the tax benefit.
And what about redevelopment? Is that a hurdle?
A redevelopment, I would say, is a bit, a tricky issue. And I'll tell you why it is a tricky issue. Lenders typically, they have given the loan basis the property which you have given as a security. Now, when you go in for a redevelopment, what happens is the entire structure is demolished. So essentially the property against, for which the loan is given, it exists only on a piece of paper, but physically there is no structure. Now, in such situation on a redevelopment, if the construction gets delayed, most of the owners, are given rental and they are in a different place. Right. Now, if entire thing gets delayed, there is already a pressure on the homeowner. Okay.
So essentially, if Dharmen does want to take a home loan, he should take that home loan before the property goes in for redevelopment.
And repay it.
And repay it.
Because what will happen, Kavita, is...
will the bank ask him to repay it if it goes in for redevelopment?
I'll tell you why. Because when he goes for redevelopment, they will ask for an NOC from the banker, from the lending institution. And lending institution will not give an NOC because it is going for redevelopment. Typically.
So, Dharmen, it's going to be difficult if you're planning to take a property on that home loan. If you do want to buy on home loan, it's best that you choose another property. Right? With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Property Hotline. Harshil Mehta, thank you very much for coming in. Hope to see more of you in future on the channel. And if you have any feedback or suggestions that you would like to share, any questions that you want to ask, do get in touch with us. You know how to do that. You can write in through email, Facebook, on our website www.mbnow.in. You can tweet to me or simply call us live like all the other callers you saw on this show. Thank you very much for watching Property Hotline. Keep watching Magicbricks Now.